what's up, my crew? How y'all doing out there right now? It's your boy GM Ashley in the building. Have you guys been watching Tata Steel? Because Tata Steel is the real deal. Let me stop rhyming. You got me going, DJ Snot Boogie. Jeez. Yo, Tata Steel is a lot of fun right now. It's a lot of good stuff going on. We have a surprise leader in Nisipian. Wait a minute. Got it wrong. I got Nisipianu on the brain. Grandilius is who I'm thinking about. Niels Grandilius from Sweden. And he is doing his thing. Surprise first place right now. Very, very much a surprise. Fabi was trying to hunt him down today. That would be Fabiano Caruana. Was trying to hunt him down today, but couldn't get enough to get his clutches on him. And he, defense wins championships. So we got him in first. We've got Magnus, who has only won one game so far. Fabi, the same, only won one game. We got Pentala Hari Krishna. We got guys chasing him down. We also have the young G, who we all love. We know he plays gangster chess. And we're talking about the AF, Alireza Firouzja. Man, he's as amazing AF. You know what I'm saying? He is absolutely a great player. He lost in the first round against Magnus. And now he's like, I'm crawling back. I'm hitting. I may be only 17, but I can get it done on the board. And he is hitting people now, making that comeback. And today he played a fascinating game. Now, if you were watching the last stream, you know, without any question, and I'm hearing some noise outside. I hope you're not picking up that crazy noise, people drilling outside. But we know that Magnus hit him early. But what was I saying? I got interrupted. My thought. That on the last stream, we were talking about pass pawns. 2 pass pawns is what we were talking about. So those pawns were so powerful, but they didn't win the game. So you just got to check back my last stream in order to know what I'm talking about. The pawns were powerful, but they did not win. Now, when you watch the Alireza game today, you see the pass pawns as well. But he didn't quite do it the way he was supposed to. He didn't handle his business just quite the right way, but he managed to score the victory anyway. So I want to jump right to the game so we can see how it developed. Now, he did have the black pieces, so let's flip the board so we can see it from the black side. And you're going to really, if you haven't seen the game, you're going to really be entertained by this one, folks. This was a goodie, and it goes with our theme of talking about the attack that is the pass pawns that were raining down the chessboard. So let's get it started right away. He had black against Donchenko. Now, Alexander Donchenko, I believe he's from Germany, was a late entrant into the tournament. And so he had to settle himself down a little bit, but guys they see a low-rated player and then the sharks come out. And so Alireza said, I'm gonna have to do my thing too. So he played this line, and this line is going to resemble the note boom variation. And this line is really to keep things sharp. He wants to keep it busy. He believes he's a stronger player, so he's going to keep it sharp against his opponent. So we see this move here. And now A5 takes another capture. And black is insisting on, I've got the extra pawn, but white is like, well, I got the 2 bishops, and you're not going to keep your extra pawn at that. So the move B3 meant to undermine this pawn structure. If you take right here, there's going to be a check winning that pawn back and then this pawn here. So that's not what black's after. Black doesn't mind this position. Black plays bishop to B7 after takes B4. Inside of 11 moves, this is one of those lines that's so interesting. Inside of 11 moves, black has already gotten 2 pass pawns. It's like, you beg to have 2 pass pawns. Inside of 11 moves, black already has 2 pass pawns. You might say, what? Connected passers? We saw this in the last stream, and we talked a lot about handling the connected passers, also how they could run you over. But we saw it go both ways in the last stream. So I was happy to see this game that ended decisively be a game so that when I'm showing you stuff, It's for a cause. It's for the real deal. It's because people use it in actual games. And this opening shows what this is all about. So after this move, bishop to b7 was played, bishop to b2, excuse me, knight f6, bishop d3, and both sides cackled, just getting the kings out of the way, knight b d7. So now we have full-scale development of the minor pieces. We see that happen. Now the question is, why is white giving away these passers? Well, white in this position is of the opinion that center pawns are going to be stronger than blockaded passers. The point is, it's not so easy for black to make this move and make it happen with these pawns going down the board. That's all you got to know. It's not that easy. So white says, you can have that. I'm looking to play a move like e4, d5, open up the diagonal for this piece, maybe drop e5, open up the diagonal for this other b-hop, and I'm going to try to roll you over. I don't believe that your passed pawns are going anywhere anytime soon. So white started in this position with the move knight to d2. All right. Now, those passes are unstoppable. Bottling glass, I love you too. But let me tell you something. It's not going to be easy to make those pawns roll down the board. It simply is not. Because you have to push with tempi. And if you don't, as you try to make it happen, you push one, then they're going to leave behind a square. So as you see here, this pawn is right here. You're going to leave behind this square. Only when they're side by side do they control all these squares. But if they're not side by side, they're not going to control all the squares, and then you're going to have the chance to blockade. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where we're talking about. This is the challenge for white. Those pawns are not unstoppable. Otherwise, white would never play this opening. Just never. White plays for a reason, all right? White plays for a reason. Now, have I been losing my voice since I started streaming? Absolutely, Gustavo. Absolutely. My voice goes in and out. I got to gargle with salt water. I got to get some tea. I got to have my lozenges ready. Absolutely. I get it. I have to keep it up. This is the level of energy. So of course your voice gets affected, but you know, we got tricks. We got tricks to make sure that the voice stays deep, mellifluous sound. I better not, because it definitely feels a little scratchy right now. Anyway, let's get it moving. This move, knight d2, meant to play the move e4. J. Ray and nephew white rum. Uneven donkey, stop it. You trying me to come on the stream drunk? Cut it out. Cut it out. I mean, you want me to get some wheat cake or something? No, let's not start that. All right. Thanks, Pterodactyl, for the prime. So the move e4 is the threat. So what does black do? Black plays this very slick move, e5. Now, what's black trying to do? Black's trying to break up the team, all right? Black's trying to break up the team. Black says, your pawns are strong, but if you take on e5, bing, I'll take that, and I'll take that. And now, where's your center? You used to have a center. Now it's all about my passers, and your so-called storm with your center pawns is out of the question. Not going to happen, not bothering anybody. We don't even care about a king structure being damaged in any way. This check means nothing. Thanks for giving us the open file so our rook and bishop can team up on you. Nobody's scared here. Nobody's scared that they're black. So the move by Alireza, typical move, e5, saying, I'm not scared at all. Go ahead and break up the structure. Go right ahead, no problem. So white played the move bishop to c2. Of course, not going to break up the pawn formation. And black said, okay, I'll defend the pawn right now with this move queen to c7. Black's not worried about d5, y'all, because then the knight's going to park itself. Park itself. Remember, we're going to see this position happen. The parking meter without having to pay for nothing, you know, it's always bad. He should get a ticket for what he's about to do to him. But the knight wants to park itself on c5 and then get this rolling. So white said, no problem. Let me play h3 because I want to cover this square. I know you're trying to get your knight here at some point. And with a queen checkmate, let me just cover all the bases just in case. And now black played rook f to e8. Now this pawn is really secure. Bishop to b3, switching diagonals. Now eyeballing potentials along this diagonal. A little waiting move by Alireza, knight f3, now gang tackling this pawn. But is he worried about that pawn? Again, he doesn't mind if the team gets broken up, so he played the move rook to a6. preparing a potential double along this line. You never know what the rook might do along the third rank as well, but just to keep everything strong. And in this position, white decided, couldn't see how to make real progress, and decided instead of waiting around to play knight takes e5. Let's grab the pawn. Let's just grab it. Okay, thank you very much for grabbing. Knight d7. And now I said, I have a pawn. It's in my pocket. It's secure because it is F pawn. All right. I'm up a pawn. I've got a secure pawn on e5. I'm good. And the truth is, white's worse. Once white's pawn structure, excuse me, that was not the next move, but once white's pawn structure got compromised, white has a weak pawn here. That's isolated. White has given away the c5 square, and white's pawns on this side are going nowhere fast. Nowhere, okay? So it's not going to be mate, but sooner or later this queen is going to whisper along the long diagonal. But for now, black said it's not mate yet, so let me just drop a knight on c5 and show white that, yes, you're up a pawn, but look at my beast of a knight on c5. That knight is not going anywhere anytime soon. And someday, this bishop is going to get captured and these pawns are going to start to roll. That's what's going to happen. Someday, that's going to be the thing that happens. Now, in this position, didn't want to see the bishop get captured. All the light squares go. So he played bishop to c2. And in this position, the move a4. Hello, passed pawns must be pushed. Here they go. The pawns are rolling down the board. Have I ever considered making a Discord server? Yes, it's Soldier. I have. Let me make a note of that. We're going to make a note of that because we're going to make that happen at some point. All right, now take a look at this position. Black's pawns are just looking scrumptious, scrum-deliciosus right now. These pawns are running down the board. White said, well, let me push. I want to get some energy too. We love positions like this. These pawns are rolling. These pawns are rolling. It's happening on this board right now. So we're loving this crazy position. Who knows what's going on? I don't. I don't for sure. I know black is supposed to be just fine and doing well, but look at this position. Like, who's doing what? This is crazy. Now, by the way, we should make a point. You might say, well, why couldn't he have taken the pawn? Kill that passer. Like, what's the deal? Well, you know, some pawns look good until this happens and the mate threat over here and the double attack on your rook and you just drop some food and you said, I shouldn't have stole that pawn. Yeah, that was not a smart move for me to make. So that pawn is not hanging, which is why white continued with the move f5. Now black continued with b3. Pawns are rolling down the board, looking good. I think that you could wait in a position like this and maybe play rook d8. And it's possible you could play for a3 instead, although this bishop is going to d4. So this is not going to be an easy position to play. Let's be clear. This is sharp. One of them gets pushed, but if you push one, like I said, if you push one, the bishop leaves. It's not so easy to push the other. You can't get past the b3 square, and that's a challenge. It's going to be a blockade on your position. You can't push them both at the same time. That's the problem with having two pawns. You can't push them both at the same time. So f5 was played, and so he played b3, chasing the bishop. Bishop dropped back, and now he played the move rook back. Now, these pawns look mighty dangerous, but then again, they're not really doing anything necessarily. So, for example, if you play a move like f6 you think is a good move, white would have to face off against this really nice exchange sacrifice. Rook takes, you take, queen takes. You might think you're going to checkmate somehow, some play, whatever, kill another pawn while we're at it. And if you move your king, well, be careful because there are different moves here. G5 is one of them. Hard to break this position up. There's a threat of check, picking off your rook here. Well, we're going to be careful because we know you have a disco on our queen, but your attack is not easy to make happen in a position like this one. You could play for h4, for example, to try to break up the team, but the queen's holding this square down, and also there could be a bishop c8 siding in the position. It's just not easy, and these two pawns are still waiting to turn into monsters. So advancing is not easy, folks. This is what white is facing against. How to get the attack going And so white decided, well, let me just clear the line for my bishop. Let me clear the long diagonal for my bishop. Not a bad idea. That pawn's going to be strong. What white is saying is, if takes, then what I want to do is play f6 and really open you up like a can of sardines and look at those bishops just, okay, into the position. All right, we haven't gotten to the juicy part yet, though. e6, queen g3. You open the line, let the queen enter into the position. And here is where Donchenko messed up, because he wanted to keep his queen active and dynamic. And so he played the move rook to f2. But a much better move was actually queen to e2. Believe it or not, the queen is the best defender in chess. The queen is the best defensive piece. Now, you don't want to tie your queen down so much, but the thing about a queen is it's a multi-purpose piece, so it can defend and attack often. It can switch out and do other things. Once you tie a piece down to defending, other than the queen, then generally speaking, thank you, OBJ. Generally speaking, once you tie a piece down to defense, that piece loses some flexibility. But a queen tends to retain its flexibility unless it's in a really horrible position. But if it's in a centralized position, it maintains its flexibility. So for example, right now, white is preparing to play the move e4, shutting down this bishop's diagonal. Why is that possible? Because the queen is on e2. Keeps that threat alive. Not saying you can't stop it, but just showing that it can keep its threat alive. The queen can also shift to f2. So it has that flexibility to tell the black queen, get to stepping. You got to go. All right. So the queen maintains that flexibility. Instead of doing that, white played the move rook to f2. And that looks like it makes sense, but it actually freezes this rook on this square. And the only flexibility the rook has is along the rank, which is not really that concerned about in this position. So that rook ends up being a problem child in the long run. This is white now taking on full defensive instead of taking on a move like queen e2, which would have given the aggressive possibilities. You want to play moves that have double purpose. You understand what I'm saying? Double purpose moves go good when, I mean, it's like double trouble, double anything, right? You know what I mean? You like when your moves have a dual purpose. And so queen to e2 has the secondary purpose of playing the move e4. So you're not just defending. At any rate, he played rook f2, a defensive move. And now this move, very controversial move, f6. He could have taken, but the tactics after f6 are just mind-numbing. We won't go into it. It's just crazy chess because your position is going to open up quite rapidly in a game like that. But he played f6 to try to shut everything down. And this position is incredibly hard to play. We've seen this with double pass pawn positions. They're incredibly hard to play. Look at this and look at this. This is just, I don't care what or who you are. When you see a position like this, you're thinking, I got a headache. I have a headache trying to understand situations like this at any level, because this pawn is not going anywhere, this pawn is not going anywhere, but they both exist and could potentially become threats. Now, don't get greedy if you're black trying to take on e3, because bishop d4 is going to do you dirty. So the tactics are also in this position. All right? So bishop to d4, centralizing, hitting the knight. Remember, a3 is going to be a potential threat. So the knight jumps into the e4 square, hitting that rook that had that. We talked about the inflexibility of the rook. Now, again, here, rook f3 has its pluses. He's a little scared about the energy along this diagonal. So I think white really played way too passive this game. He took this piece off and said, all right, let's go opposite colored bishops. Let us know a principle about opposite colored bishops, everyone. The main principle about opposite colored bishops, a lot of you might know, they tend to be drawish. But only if they are the only elements on the board, along with kings and pawns. If you have opposite colored bishops, it's very difficult to win, but only if you don't have the major pieces or other pieces on the board, including knights, for example, having a knight on the board, a pair of knights. When you have it, as AMC McDonald is saying, it's like an extra piece. So you have to be mindful of it. And this bishop is an absolute beast on this diagonal, hitting this pawn. You always have to worry about mating threats right here. It's also guarding the b1 square. hippity hop, if you can just get past b2, then you're going to promote onto the b1 square. This bishop doesn't have the same power, the same potency, as you can see. It's centralized. It's definitely blocking up the position, guarding this pawn as well. But it's really stuck as f6 is under fire, but under control as well. So white just has to be careful here. But as far as white's concerned, hey, I'm up a pawn. Maybe I can push. But remember, if you push this, you block this bishop. We're actually going to see this in the game. And this bishop's got c6 under control. So this piece is much better than this piece. But can he get the attack rolling is the question. So here, white continued. Full defensive. We're not letting this pawn push ever. Okay, black's not worried about that. So black played rook to c8, attacking this pawn. The pawn pushed. And it looks like progress for white. But now these dark squares become a little bit weaker. These light squares, maybe the rook might go up here, and snack on this pawn. Black has to be patient here. Alireza showed full patience with the move king to h7, just getting his king out of any tricks on the back row. And plus he wasn't sure exactly what to do. His opponent played queen d2. Now for the dramatic moment in this game. When was this game played? Nasa Nerd, where have you been? Yeah, it's from Tata Steel, and it was today. We're just a few hours ago this was played. Just a few hours ago. So we are going over this game because I got so much other good stuff to show you for this stream. But this is the foundation of what I'm going to show you. This got me going. And boy, when you see the stuff, this game is going to look tame by comparison to the stuff I have to show you. And just, you're going to be like, oh, why'd you show us the Alireza game? I mean, it's a great finish, by the way. You'll see why in a moment. But I first have to show you the game itself. Now, moving along. In this position, Alireza should be patient, okay? He should be patient. He could play the rook d8 move and just chill. Wait, but white has nothing to do. Build on the position first. See what the deal is. He could wait this position out. He could even drop his queen back to start doing some action on this side of the board. Maybe a queen b5, maybe prepare a b2 action at some point. Instead, he played the move b2. He saw something from afar that he thought was good, and he played the move b2. Now, this move looks like a shocker, a deadly blow, a killing move. It turns out it's not winning. When you see what happened in the game, you go, wow, that was nasty. He run a truck all over him with this move. It's not a winning move. It was impatient. And like I mentioned, when you have those pawns, you got to be patient. Make sure when you hit that you hit hard. You got to hit him hard. He played this move not realizing that it wasn't going to work out. Maybe he couldn't find anything else. So what he did, he played b2. Now here, white blundered. White blundered horribly and went down in flames. We're going to look at the blunder, and then we're going to look at the saving move. But let's first enjoy. But you know what? Let's do it the other way so we can enjoy the finish. Let's do it that way. White was scared to play bishop takes b2 because of rook takes on c5. Remember that rook move to push the pawn. Deep ideas by Alireza. The problem here is that white is facing rook to c2 and hello across the line. If you try to stop that move, well, switcheroony, you cannot put a rook on d3 because it's a light square. And then guess who's doubling on the d line? And guess who's going to run you over when it gets to d8? Because g2 is always going to be hanging. So, for example, queen to e2 can be played here. Rook to d8. You can't throw your bishop in the way anymore. The threat is rook here, or maybe rook here is actually the real threat. Let's be serious about this. And if you try to stop that, well, now we're going down to d2 anyway. Queen takes will be met by give us this. Rook takes in this position met by give us this. And now these pieces are starting to show their strength. Now you're in big trouble. Your bishop is guarding your rook. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? This rook's hanging. The bishop's hanging. The bishop can't move. That's Johnny ball game. Rough, rough, rough. That's what he was scared of. The rook c2 move, he didn't see how to deal with it. It turns out there's a wild and beautiful tactical idea that will make your head, you'll be like, really? But it's deep. You have to find the saving move. There are two of them. This one is the cleanest for you to understand. Queen to b4. Hitting the rook and hitting the bishop. Straightforward. You say, well, that looks good. Why didn't he play it? Because he was afraid of rook takes on f5. Now his rook cannot capture because it's Matutski on g2. His rook is hanging on the square. And so he's going to look much worse. If he plays queen back to defend, hey, the other rook shows up to the party and white is going to get busted. Why? If you block now, bing, 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 you're getting hit in the face. E takes on d4. Let's just clean up this action, hitting your queen. And when you take back, swing, and that's it. These pawns are not going anywhere because the queen and the bishop can hold them down, especially the queen. What did I say about the queen being a fantastic defender? The queen is ready to come back and save any of the nonsense that you're thinking about. So that was beautiful back here. That was beautiful here. After rook takes f5, but white does not have to go full scale defense. The queen, what he said about the queen being a great defender, because it can switch from defense to offense in a second. Queen takes e4 is the move here. Super powerful. Why is that strong? The pin on the king. Guarding g2. Hitting the rook on a8. Preparing the push. Oh, by the way, also attacking this pawn. I tell you, when I say a queen is a great defender, its flexibility between offense and defense is tremendous. And that's why in this position, white is okay. Even though white's dropping this with check, king to h2, no more checks. But this rook is pinned. This pawn is going down the board. This pawn could be captured because it's protected. What are you supposed to do as white, as black that is, in this position? If you move your rook to attack something, go right ahead. You can have this bishop. Rook takes is doing nothing because we're getting a second queen. What did we say about that queen playing defense, offense? The queen is magnificent in holding a position down. Just absolutely incredible. All right? So the point back here is that b2, bishop takes b2, rook takes c5, queen to b4 was the money move. You can check it out and see this move would have done work, saved white, because Alireza was a little impetuous playing the b2 move. His opponent, unfortunately, did not see that defense. And here after b2, with some time pressure on him, he panicked and took with the queen. B as in bad news, opening the B line. Here came the pieces. The rook said, "Whoo, we've been freed. An open foul. We see light." We see light. The move now, rook to B1 is coming. You got to be careful because if your rook has to drop back, there's going to be a mate. So your queen has to guard the rank. He played queen to A2, guarding the rank. Rook B1 check. Rook back. And what did Alireza do? And another one, Biggie Smalls. The double B line. Now you're in big time trouble. This rook is definitely cemented by this rook. And we're ready to capture if you capture. And then your queen has to give itself up and you're going to die. So that doesn't count for anything. So now white in trouble. Played the move queen to F2. Swinging to that side. Saying, I got to eject this queen out of the position. And black played a beautiful maneuver. A beautiful maneuver here. And you see here, rook b1 was the move. Well, we like rook b1 as white on this stream. Well, rook b1 as black is definitely twice as nice. Yes, indeed. The gangster move to finish him off. Takes. King takes his force. If you play queen takes, obviously gangster rook to b1 lands on the board. So you've got to play king takes. And again, the sleeper hold. Check. And now the move king to e2 is forced. And this is the position now where you say, well, how are you going to win this? What do? You don't want to take some cheap pawn. Oh, by the way, the guy's trying to push. White thinks he's okay. But now for the money move. The money move to follow the rook b8. Alireza played the beautiful, the gorgeous queen back to b8. The retreat. And this is the story of our stream today, the retreating move. I like to talk about moves that grandmasters miss. Okay, this is what Donchenko missed, but Alireza, the young gun, saw. that when you see a retreating move, you go, woo! Peter Lako and Tanya Sachdev commenting on the stream today, they didn't see it. And when they saw the move land on the board, they were like, woo, what a move. We all love the moves that go backwards and win. The retreating moves that win. That is indeed gangster level stuff right there. Queen all the way back. The queen was in the heart of the position, comes all the way back and play for the attack. Here comes the queen. It's going to stomp white now. This is over. You cannot fix the problem. Your king is just stuck in the position. He tried queen f4. Queen went to b5. King to d2. Only move. If you try to run the other way, well, guess who's coming to dinner? Let's just do it right. Let's get him. Let's get him. Whoops! Look at that king. Look at that poor king getting hunted down. You try to defend. Bing, 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 bing. See you later, alligator. Mate Matutski on the board. That is not going to work. So queen to b4, b5 with check, prompted king to d2, and now queen to b4 check. Bishop block. You can't save your rook. You cannot save your rook because you're getting scissored. Edward Scissorhands hitting you. So bishop to c3 was forced. And now it looks like this bishop is hanging. He said, you know what? Queen and rooks do the job by themselves. You got no chance here. Queen took on e4, queen to c1 with check. The king moved up. And now queen to f1 with check. You're not running anywhere. You thought you were running? Nowhere. Sorry. And if you go up the board, then resign in this position, by the way, because this check is going to hurt. Look at that king just cut off the c-pawn, giving him no place to run to. That was it. That was game. Done. Done. And look at those juicy light squares. Oh, he just came in on the b5 square and then just landed on f1. Those light squares were Swiss cheese in white's position. So here after the move, queen f1. No, I think it was king d3, queen f1. Here, white resigned. A vicious kill by the young Alireza, now tied for second place. But the key move, I know b2 was a little premature. He missed the fantastic defense by white. But his finish, still, give him due credit. His opponent didn't find the win, but his finish is this move right here. After the rook b1 penetration, to find quickly queen to b8, a fantastic retreating move that wins the game. This is gangster chess. High level, amazingly good stuff.